Pokémon is one of the most beloved franchises in the history of video games. Usually in these games, the goal is to progress to each town, capturing Pokémon along the way, to beat the gym leaders and eventually defeat the Elite Four. When Nintendo announced they were creating a Pokémon game for consoles, fans were excited. What they got was Pokémon Snap. Wait a second, isn't Pokémon Snap a rail shooter? How do you speedrun a game when you can barely control the cart? How hard can it be to speedrun a game where the cart moves at the same speed the entire time? You'd be surprised just how far the record has come. To beat Pokémon Snap and trigger the credit sequence, you have to take a picture of Mew on Rainbow Cloud. There are 7 stages in the game: Beach, Tunnel, Volcano, River, Cave, Valley, and Rainbow Cloud. To unlock Rainbow Cloud, you need to take pictures of 40 kinds of Pokemon and score 130,000 points. The better pictures you take, the more points Professor Oak gives you. Our story starts in 2006. A forum thread is posted on Speed Demo's archive asking, "Can you speedrun Pokemon Snap?" The initial reaction to the thread is a resounding no, but a few users have their interest piqued. A handful of players break out the old cartridge and spearhead an investigation into the mysterious Pokemon Island in search of speed tech and glory. Later that month, one user, Lokarin, has a good idea of how the run should be laid out. Unfortunately, no video footage exists of any practice runs or theory crafting in this time frame. The thread eventually dies, and Snap fades back into obscurity. 2 years later, the question arises once more on the SGA forums. Is it possible to speedrun Pokemon Snap? Along comes runner Gia with the first recorded single-segment test run. After a month of testing and practice, Gia produces a 24:02, the gold standard for Pokemon Snap speedruns for years to come. Let's take a closer look at what separates his speedrun from a casual playthrough. Gia never repeats any of the stages throughout his run, only going into each stage the minimum amount required to progress the game. He takes advantage of Quit Course in the pause menu. By quitting the course, you keep all the pictures you've taken up until that point without having to play through the whole level. The place this comes in handy the most is in the second stage, Tunnel. To unlock the third stage in the game, Volcano, you need to throw an apple-shaped Pokemon food at the electrode blocking the path. The apples are not unlocked until the player reaches 24,000 points. So Gia goes into Tunnel, takes a picture of Electrode and Pikachu riding Electrode, and then quits the course. When he goes back to Oak, he has enough points to unlock the required apples, which he uses to unlock Volcano. Gia applies a similar trick to get Pester Balls early. To unlock Pester Balls, you need to have 72,500 points, which is fairly doable by the end of Volcano. If you already have enough points, you can take a quick picture and exit the stage quickly. Just as you enter into River, it's possible to take a picture quickly of the riverbank and submit it to Oak. The game counts this as a picture of Poliwag even though it's hidden behind the grass. This will trigger Oak to unlock Pester Balls, which are needed to unlock the next stage cave. Additionally, he is aware of cart mechanics. The cart moves fastest when the camera is moving forward and slowest when the camera is facing backwards. If you zoom in to take a picture, however, the cart will stay at the speed of whatever direction you were looking in before you zoomed in. This locks the speed of the cart and allows you to look on either side or behind you without hindrance. This run of his would stand on Speed Demo's archive for several years before it would be challenged by a new generation. With the creation of Speedruns Live, we see a new set of players picking up Pokemon Snap. A common thread through most of these races is a front runner, Riker Z, showing a dominance on the leaderboard with a first place rank in over 85% of his 39 races. On September 21st, 2013, over 5 years after Gia's 24:02, Riker lowered the world record down to 22:33. One of the many optimizations Riker Z implements into the run is lag reduction. Pokemon Snap was originally developed for the N64 disk drive, but due to poor sales was later moved to the N64. Like many other N64 games, such as Donkey Kong 64 or GoldenEye 007, there is lag the more 3D models there are on screen. To compensate, the console will skip rendering objects that are not in the field of view of the camera. To prevent the game from slowing down, Riker Z would look up at the sky or at the floor as often as possible to reduce the on-screen lag. Additionally, he optimized many of the tricks used in runs today. In Gia's run, we see him wait for Electrode to detonate in tunnel to take a picture of Electabuzz. But Riker Z found out you can get a better picture of Electabuzz earlier. By hitting Electabuzz with 2 apples, you can get the cart to travel ahead of him. Then by locking your camera, you can turn around and take a much better picture without losing any speed. In Gia's run, he takes a picture of Butterfree while it's still pretty far away. With some light RNG manipulation, and by pointing the camera up and to the right of a cloud, Butterfree will fly right in your line of sight and you can take a much better picture. Ultimately, as Butterfree's movements are RNG based, this helps optimize what was a trickier picture to take at the time. On Volcano, Moltres is waiting in an egg to hatch on a bridge. When you hit it with an apple, the egg will fall into the lava and Moltres will come out. In Gia's run, he waits for Moltres to hatch, fly up, and turn around to do his special pose. While this gets more points in the long run, Riker Z saves time by taking a picture of Moltres right before he starts to pose, which saves a few seconds. Lastly, Riker Z saves time on Valley by only taking 1 picture. Valley has a lot of Pokemon on the stage, and if you are behind on points, the stage is an opportunity to catch up. In Gia's run, he submits 6 pictures. Each photo wastes roughly 4 seconds. In Riker Z's run, he only takes 1 photo, which saves about 20 seconds. Riker Z and his racing opponents were responsible for implementing lag reduction in the run, which is a strategy that proved to ultimately save the most time on every level. The previous world record had been shattered by over 1.5 minutes. How long would Riker Z's record last? A month? A year? As it turned out, it was only about 3 months. With the optimizations Riker Z brought in his runs, there was an influx of runners ready to lay claim to the record. On Christmas Eve that year, Spark would become the new world record holder with the 2214.
2214. Wow.
By doing every trick better, exiting stages faster, and mashing through text boxes, Spark was able to lower the record by 19 seconds. The Pokémon Snap community was more alive now than it had ever been, and this was just the beginning. A little over a month later, Karmerz got the first sub-22 minute time, a 21:39.
Oh, 21:39. It has been done.
21:39 world record! Way to go!
Something was a little different though. He wasn't playing in English. He was playing on the Japanese version of the game. Why is that? It was discovered that the Japanese version of Snap is almost identical to the version released in North America, but saves time in a few places because of fewer and faster text boxes. Interestingly enough, due to an optimization made between the release of the Japanese version and the North American version regains some of that lost time due to faster text clearing, making every oak point check several frames faster. Overall, the Japanese version saves around 20 seconds over the North American version. Karmerz also introduced a new trick in his world record called Mankey Snipe. On Valley, you have to knock a Mankey over and onto a button that unlocks signs. Traditionally, this meant waiting until you rounded the corner and throwing the pester balls at him to knock him over. Karmerz starts throwing pester balls at Mankey before you can see him, and if you hit Mankey in this way, the cutscene for Mankey will trigger and the gate to Professor Oak will open. Overall, he was able to save 35 seconds over the previous record. As a result, all serious runners began playing on the Japanese version of the game, and that is the version we will be focusing on. On November 26, 2014, GameFan Dan got a 21:38, which was a second faster improvement over the world record. The only optimization in this run over Karmerz was a faster Mankey Snipe on Valley.
Oh, we got him, dude! Fuck yes!
Dude, I got a good Mankey Snipe!
But GameFan Dan would eventually lower his time to a 21:30 on February 9th, 2015.
Look at that. Oh, wait a minute. I did do it. That's world record, everybody. Duh.
By optimizing strategies, taking better pictures, and better lag reduction, the record had been lowered another 9 seconds. It seems like without any better tricks, the run couldn't get any faster. On October 2nd, 2015, runner Quo would lower the record to a 21:22.
23, alright. That was sick. That was a good run.
Quo's first major optimization was not taking a picture of Pikachu riding Electrode at the beginning of tunnel. As it turned out, it was possible to get enough points from Pikachu standing still at the beginning of tunnel to skip taking Pikachu riding the ball. In this way, Quo can quickly pivot to Electrode sooner and exit the stage faster, saving several seconds. His run also introduces an optimization for signs on Volcano. At the start of Volcano, there is an active volcano on the left. By throwing a Pester Ball into the volcano, the player activates a cloud of smoke, the coughing sign, which is needed to unlock Rainbow Cloud. By boosting at the start of the level and throwing the Pester Ball just right, you can trigger the cloud to spawn and exit Volcano faster. These two improvements allowed Quo to lower the record by 8 seconds, but weren't enough to keep the record for too long. A month later, Arg My Toast got a 21:13 on November 6, 2015.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit.
There were no new tricks or improvements, but the run overall was cleaner and he saves time on River and Mew versus Quo. Just a few months later, on February 1st, 2016, up-and-coming runner Drogi was able to lower the record down to a 21:12.
Weltrekord.
Nice.
Nice.
GG,
Weltrekord.
And a few months after that, down to a 21:07.
Care at this point. Because I'm the first person to get sub 21:10, so really good run.
Drogi started by optimizing the first stage in the game, Beach. By getting Pikachu in Beach, it was possible to get more points than the Tunnel Pikachu, meaning he can focus on getting Electrode even earlier. The Electrode picture gives you points based on how close you are to it. The further it rolls, the more points you get, but the longer it takes. Drogi entered Tunnel with 22,000 points, which meant he could take a picture of Electrode quicker. In his run, Drogi also uses a better strategy for getting Diglett. By taking a picture of Diglett in an earlier cycle, he loses a small amount of points for Diglett, but sets up to gain over 1,000 points on Double Dugtrio. Earlier, we talked about a trick called Poseless Moltres, where you take a picture of Moltres before it gets into its pose with its wings stretched out. In Drogi's run, he uses a trick called Early Moltres, where he takes a picture of Moltres with it just coming out of the lava. This trick overall saves time, but sacrifices points along with it. In September, later that year, Drogi would lower his time even more, all the way down to a 21:01.
And it's the timing part is right when the red text appears. No. I didn't knew it was world record. Yeah, that was my reaction.
In addition to being proficient at all the tricks in the run up until that point, he also implemented a few more which ultimately helped him save more time. In Cave, there are Dittos disguised as Bulbasaurs. To reveal them, you have to hit them with the Pester Ball. Up until this point, everyone had used the Ditto that were past Buck, because it was easier overall. Drogi instead goes for the Ditto that is at the bottom of where the cart is descending from. This Ditto can set up for a better picture and allows for better lag reduction in the next room. Later in Cave, Drogi starts to throw apples early at Weepinbell circling around the water. Typically, you would wait until you got closer and then hit Weepinbell with the apple. Drogi preemptively hits Weepinbell to get the transformation to Victory Bell started faster, and just before Weepinbell disappears into the water, takes a quick picture. The world record was now almost sub 21. Who would be the first to get it? Would it be Drogi? Would it be one of the older world record holders like Quo or Game Fan Dan? Nope. Instead, it was a new runner named Levon. On January 3rd, 2017, after months of grinding, Levon got the first time below 21 minutes.
Ah!
How was he able to do it? At the start of Beach, it's possible to turn to the right after the Pidgeys fly by, and take a picture of a Pidgey very close to the cart flying past you. This Pidgey, if done correctly, is worth 4,000 points. This meant that it was possible to squeeze even more points out of Beach. Going into Tunnel, Levon had 22,800 points. Remember when I said earlier that the Electrode at the start of the tunnel is worth more points the closer it is to you? At its farthest, Electrode is worth 1,500 points. That means you didn't have to wait for Electrode to roll at all. You could take a picture of Electrode at its farthest away, and as long as you had at least 22,500 points, you could quit course and unlock apples. The other main improvement was on the stage Valley. Runners, up until this point, had to take at least one picture on the stage and submit it. Levon had 130,000 points once he got into Valley, so all he had to do was take a picture of the Doug Trio sign and then stare up at the sky until the end of the course. A 0-picture Valley saves 4 seconds over a 1-picture Valley. The time barrier had finally been broken, and Levon was on top. Unfortunately for Levon, Drogi took back the world record in less than a day.
Oh shit, it's a huge world record. I'm sorry, Levon. 2053. Let's go.
Drogi got a 2053, just improving on the same strategies and tricks in Levon's run. After another 5 months of grinding, Levon would take the record back from Drogi, lowering its time to 2052.
I think that's it. I at least tied it. I at least tied it.
The current world record holder is Quo, who originally held the world record in October 2015. Overall, there have been no new tricks in any of the runs since Levon's 2057. It took 9 years to lower the world record for Pokémon Snap just 3 minutes and 12 seconds. In that time, the game has been pushed to its absolute brink. We've come to a point where squeezing out even a few hundred points or a few extra seconds has become almost impossible. As of the recording of this video, there are no known useful glitches to help improve the run. This makes Pokémon Snap a speedrun where every single aspect is optimized as much as possible. Every single picture is to maximize points and minimize time loss. Lag reduction has been improved constantly to minimize on-screen models. Pokémon Snap is not the largest community. It isn't always the most visually interesting speed game. But every single person who watches a Pokémon Snap speedrun is treated to something special.